Vulnerability is a superpower. You are safe to express how you feel without judgment because your feelings are valid. Don't hold back out of fear of losing something or someone. You are already whole, and you have everything you need. Well, holy shit, you guys. We have officially hit a year of Raw, the Real Authentic Woman podcast. That's fucking crazy. It feels like it's been longer than that. And I've learned so much about myself in this year of podcasting. And honestly, I really had no idea what this journey was going to be or where it was going to take me. I just knew that I needed to start. And I'm really proud of how consistent and persistent I've been through this whole process. So, this episode, I really wanted to, take some time to reminisce a little bit and look back on this year, but also get into some deeper childhood beliefs that I think are surfacing at this time that I'm kind of working to debunk and just like rewire my brain and my beliefs into something that's a little bit more healthy. And so as I have been reflecting, I've come up with some big takeaways from this year. I've kind of narrowed it down, and we got some fun things on the agenda today. We're going to look into my top funniest blooper moments. I had to kind of dig for these, so it's going to be a fun time. But when you do these podcast recordings, it's you mess up a lot. And so I am a very impatient person. So when I fuck up, I just am like, bleh! And so I have a lot of funny moments that we can take away from this year. So we're going to get into that. But before we get into all that, I do really want to dive into my hot thought of the week. Obviously, Dave's, come on. This one is extremely deep, and it's something that has been really heavy on my mind and my soul in the last few weeks because it's just something that's happening currently in our world right now, and it's just, I'm so angry. I'm very, very angry. Okay, so I texted my dad earlier last week, and I just said, I am so angry. I'm angry because I live in a world that is dying, and I live in a country that hates its people, okay? And just to give you some context on what's happening in the world, I'm sure you all know, but let's just, fucking bring this to the surface. Currently in America, we are dealing with a poopy parasite virus that has infected all of our lettuce, so that's fucking cool. And, what's frustrating is that our administration has defunded a lot of the services and companies that are put in place to protect the American people from, outbreaks like this in our food and to prioritize our health. A lot of that shit has been defunded. And so now it's actually coming out that we need those services to, protect the American people. I'm so pissed off by this because I just don't understand how you can be a leader of this country and not give a fuck about its people. That makes absolutely no sense to me. And it's been so evident, I think, in these last couple months that I'm just so beyond frustrated that I feel so insignificant to it all, right? And on top of that, I look at the climate crisis because we're also experiencing, major heat waves. And in the area that I live in, I live in Michigan, we had a terrible week and a half of just bad air quality. It literally looked apocalyptic out, you guys. I'm not even joking. It was so hazy, and the air was not even, I'm breathing in the ozone layer, bro. Okay. That's not fucking okay. And I'm just so angry and mad because this is shit that I don't ever remember having to deal with growing up. And it's frustrating because I feel like I can't do anything about it. And I feel like a lot of people are just turning heads and being like, well, what can you do? Da, 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 da. And it really does feel like that because I can sit there and vote and sign petitions and, go protest and do all these things. And that's great, right? But when you really take a step back and I look at it, like, what is that actually doing? There's no progressive change. And so I think I'm just angry. Like, I'm just so mad that we can't figure this shit out, bro. Like, I don't want to fucking raise a kid in a world where they have to worry about what they can or cannot eat and, they can't go outside because they can't breathe in the air. Like, bro, that shit is fucking terrible. And I'm just angry and I'm upset and I'm mad and I wish that there was more that I could do to kind of shift this narrative. And I think I'm just I honestly, okay, hello. I think I just need to take another break from social media and just away from that shit because I'm so tired of seeing there's so much negativity in the world, bro. And it's just like, bro, this is so heavy. And it's in the middle of the summer and it's like, bro, I'm just trying to live my life. And part of me just wants to be away from it. But then, fuck, I mean, I need to know if I can eat lettuce or not. You know what I'm saying? It's like, fuck, dude, what do you do? Oh, I don't know, guys. I'm just so I'm so frustrated by it all. So that's really my hot thought of the week is that I'm angry and I'm frustrated that the people who are in a position of power don't care about the things that I think should be at the forefront of everybody's mind. Like the climate crisis, okay? That should be at the forefront of everybody's mind. And protecting its country's people. That seems like the normal thing to do. But anyway, I digress. Let's get into the juice of this episode today. All right. So I sat back and I really started to think about some of my biggest takeaways from this year. And that's what we're going to unpack today. So my 3 biggest takeaways from this year in podcasting are, number 1, it will never not be scary. Number 2, pressure is the enemy of creativity. And number 3, speaking your truth is healing. Okay? So, first, I've learned that being scared is all part of the process. And starting was scary, right? But honestly, I think it's scarier to continue to put myself out there and post, if that makes sense. Because every time I release an episode that's like, a little too vulnerable or revealing, I'm terrified because I'm putting myself out there in a way that not many people are. And it's terrifying. Like, I don't know how else to describe it, but like when I release an episode, it sometimes feels like I'm on the edge of a cliff. My palms are sweaty. And it's like one false move, I could slip right off the edge of that cliff. And then what? Am I going to just fall to my death and, not be able to get back up? Or do I fall and there's, some cushion at the bottom of this cliff? I don't know. But I just keep jumping off the cliff and just seeing what happens. And it's terrifying. And in this whole process, I think and it may not come off this way, but I am deep down terrified of what people truly think of me, the real me. And so when I am being vulnerable and when I am being this authentic, I'm terrified that people aren't going to like the real me, and I don't know how I'm going to handle that. It's like, I don't know if I'm going to get up and walk away with just a few scratches, or am I going to just let it consume me? Like, I really have no idea because my podcast hasn't, skyrocketed into the top 10 of podcasts in the first year of podcasting. I understand. But when and if it does get there, how am I going to, how am I going to handle that shit? Because people are going to start forming their opinions about me and, say whatever they need to say. Everybody has their own opinion. That's why I started my own fucking podcast, right? But I just don't know how I'm going to handle that. So this is something that I am working on releasing, is this fear of what others think of me, because this is something that has been such a challenge for me my entire life. And I mean, we're talking like deeply rooted in my childhood. I wanted to get to the root of this belief. I'm like, where the fuck is this belief coming from? Like, why am I so terrified of what people actually think of me? And so to get to the root of this, I have to bring up some old wounds. And so we're going to get into it, obviously, because that's what we do on this podcast. So here's the thing, okay? My mother and I, we have always had kind of a complicated relationship. And I think, honestly, mother-daughter relationships are just hard to begin with. But I also think that we have really grown to understand each other. And I love her, with all my heart. I love my mother. However, as I have been doing some reflecting, I've realized that growing up, there were things that she maybe didn't even know that she instilled in me that have now manifested into my adulthood. She has always been extremely vocal of her opinions towards me. I mean, she is my mother after all. But I think as a kid, I used to internalize everything that she would say to me. And so one of the things that she would say to me most often is, that's unbecoming. You're so unbecoming. She'd say things like, you shouldn't say that, or you shouldn't wear that, or don't do it like this, do it like that. And, eventually I became hypercritical of myself because I was so terrified that who I was and how I carried myself would not be, quote unquote, accepted or adequate enough. And I don't blame this all on my mother, and I don't blame her in general. I just want to be very clear. I have been working on releasing a lot of my resentment towards my mother, and we have been able to build a really solid relationship and, foundation today. But I think it's important that we talk about how our past relationships have kind of, especially with our parents, right, have kind of formed us into the person we are today and why we have the beliefs that we do. But as a daughter, I think you care deeply about what your mother thinks of you. This is like your direct line to womanhood, right? Like our mothers are the first examples of what a woman should be. So I took a lot of the things that she said and did to heart because that was the woman in my life, the main woman in my life that I saw every single day, day in and day out, right? And you want to be just like your mom when you're younger. Like that's your mom. So if she tells you to do something, you listen. But as I've gotten older, I've kind of developed this belief that sounds something like this, okay? I must pay attention to what others think of me and say about me if I want to be accepted. Otherwise, I'm not good enough. Damn, bro. Shit. And so the older I've gotten, I think the more this belief has just kind of crept up in ways that I don't even see now. Like it's just almost an immediate response to how I do things in my adult life today. But over the years, I have really, really started to see my mom a little bit more clearly for who she is. And I love who she is, right? And sure, has she made some mistakes? Yes. But everything, I know now, right? I know now that everything she does out of love. And sometimes it might not always come across that way, but her intention is never to hurt. It always comes from a place of compassion. But it's really taken me some time to see it that way. And so recently I've started to kind of recognize situations and, interactions that I have with her a little bit differently. And I'm not so quick to internalize everything that she says to me. And that has really strengthened my relationship with my mother. And so I'll give you an example of something that happened to me not too long ago, okay? So recently we had a retirement party for my dad. And mind you, this is like a lot of my parents' friends and obviously like my family members, extended family members. But the day that we decided to do this, it was hot as balls, okay? So what am I going to wear on a hot as balls summer day? Something that says, oh, that makes sense why you would wear something like that because it's hot as balls out, okay? So I put on this super cute tube top, some mindfully long jean shorts, and this, light sweater. And I'm thinking, this is appropriate for the occasion. And I'm also dressing in accordance to the weather, so we're good, okay? Now, what is the first thing my mother does when she sees me? And honestly, I gotta hand it to her. She is getting really clever with how she delivers her opinion to me nowadays. But anyway, she looks at me and she goes, come here, I want to show you something that I have in my closet. I'm like, this should be interesting. So she brings me up there. She points to 2 different tank tops and she asks if I like them. I'm like, yeah, sure, Mom. Like, they're cute. Whole time, I'm thinking she's asking for my opinion on them because this is what she's going to wear, right? Like, she's going to put this on. So, oh, no. She looks at me and goes, yeah, do you think you might want to wear one of them right now? To which I try not to immediately react. So instead, I just say, Mom, do you not like what I'm wearing right now? She says, well, I don't know. Some people might be uncomfortable with it. Now, old me would have been in a spiral about this all fucking day, dude. I literally would have let this ruin my whole day. But instead, I just said, well, if anyone has a problem with that, it's not really my problem. And I'm going to walk away before I say something I'll regret. I appreciate your concern, right? I walked away. But, it was in the moment after that I really recognized that my mother was just projecting, and she has for most of my life. But this time, I really tried not to push that projection onto the view of myself because I loved what I was wearing that day. I felt good, felt hot, sexy even, you know what I mean? Like, and sure, could I have worn something maybe a little bit more conservative around my family and parents, friends, whatever. But it's like, I'm a grown-ass woman, bro. And if somebody has a problem with what I chose to wear, it's really not my problem, bro. Like, I'm wearing some shit that I think is cute and is acceptable for the weather, okay? Like, fuck. But for so long, I would worry about these things all the time. Like, and I still do sometimes, like, I worry about what I say or what I wear because it was instilled in me to, like, pay attention to how the outside world is seeing me and viewing me. Because another thing about my mom, I love her, but I think she thinks that everybody's perception of me is, a direct reflection of her. And I have to try to remind her, like, Mom, like, I am my own person. And yes, I am your daughter. And I understand that you don't want people thinking this certain way about your daughter. But, like, it also has nothing to do with you. Like, their perceptions of me has nothing to do with you. And I really try to, like, remind her that because even just recently, like, I think I swore in front of, like, my aunt and uncle and anything. Mind you, I have a family of swearers, okay? Everybody swears. It's not a big deal. And my mom goes mid-conversation, I'm sorry for her language. And it's like, dude, like, what the hell, dude? I'm like, Mom, bro. I love her, bro. I love her. But it's just like, dude, what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, I'm allowed to just say the F word, okay? I'm allowed to fucking say it, okay? Like, sorry. It is just something that I continue to struggle with because I don't feel like I can fully, transparently be myself all the time because I don't want, I have that, false belief that I'm trying to debunk that says you really need to pay attention to how people are reacting to what you say and do. And I think another thing is that I don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable. And so I think I still really struggle with this in my day-to-day life because I'm so terrified of how people are going to react based on what I say or do. And I've never really, had a moment to pause or to think that it was okay to ask myself, how do I want to be seen? And how do I want to be viewed, right? And so I still have this belief that I'm not going to be good enough for people, so I have to act in accordance to how they want me to be so that I don't make anybody else feel uncomfortable. And so if being myself makes people uncomfortable, then that means I'm doing something wrong. So really what I'm trying to do now is debunk this belief and replace it with something that sounds like this. It's okay to be my true, authentic self. It is not my responsibility to shrink myself in order to make others feel comfortable. Being myself is more than good enough. That's fire. I need to probably write that on an affirmation and say it every day. But anyway, part of the reason why I started this podcast is that I didn't want others to live in fear of that. I didn't want others to live in fear of being who they truly are. I want people to see that it is possible to just be you and still make a life for yourself, still make true friends, and still achieve your goals and still be loved. But to do that, I know that I have to continue to be me. And yes, I'm still figuring out who that is, but I have to believe that my courage will one day help others, find the courage to be their authentic selves too. And the problem is like our society glorifies judgment and comparison. And there is a lack of individuality because we are so overstimulated with how everything in our lives should be and should look. Again, thank you, social media. So, it is terrifying to be myself. And it's terrifying when I release an episode about, my sexuality or an episode about my shame because I'm not used to talking about that on a day-to-day basis. It's not something I'm going to walk up to somebody and say, hey, do you want to hear about my shameful past? Like, what? No, I'm not doing that. But again, I shouldn't have to shelter parts of myself because I'm scared it's going to make other people feel uncomfortable. That doesn't make any sense. Being yourself will always be scary when you grew up fearing how the world would treat you as your true self. I don't think this journey that I'm on will ever not be scary. Being your true self is fucking scary. But that's also part of what makes it so exciting. When you put yourself out there authentically, you're opening yourself up to a world of judgment. You are providing a space for someone else to comment on how you look or how you sound or what you do. But at the same time, you're also providing a space for someone else to connect with you, to be inspired by you. And that's why I have to keep going. For the people out there who need a space to feel seen, who need a space to just be themselves without any judgment. I read somewhere that the way people perceive you is almost always a projection. Now, let's not be delusional, but if you've done enough work on yourself, you can start to see when things are merely a projection versus when you might need to do some more work on yourself. My mom telling me she didn't like what I was wearing, that's a projection. My friend expressing their concern about how I'm treating others, an area of improvement. Do you see what I'm saying? The moral of this takeaway is that I know this journey will never not be scary, and I'm terrified of what people will say once, they finally do start paying attention. But I also can't wait to see what people do say. My hope is that people can listen to my shit and escape for a minute. I want to provide people with a space that isn't suffocating. I want it to be liberating for them. I want people to laugh and cry in the same episode. And so that's really my goal is, to make you cry. No, I'm just kidding. But for real, it's a goal of mine to really provide people with that safe space, a place to just feel seen and to feel heard, right? And to feel valued. So that's what it is. You guys, I'm so excited. I'm about to watch fucking Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's a sequel movie that just came out on Paramount, and I'm literally so lit. But anyway. Second biggest takeaway that I've found this year is that pressure is the enemy of creativity. What do I mean by that? Well, I have to take you through yet another one of my childhood beliefs that I am slowly starting to debunk. So I can't ever remember a time when I wasn't hard on myself. And I guess what I mean by that is that, like, I've never not strived for perfection, right? Like, from the way I wrote my name to the way I babysat my brother and cousins, like, I was so scared of consequences that I really never stepped out of line. You know, I never questioned authority. I always did what I was told. And I always just tried to go above and beyond. So, you know, when the class was asked to be quiet in the library, I would be silent, but then I would also try to make sure that the kids around me were being silent too. Like, you know, like I was that annoying goody two-shoes kid who always followed the rules and judged others for not following them, bro. Like, I was that annoying kid. And I believed that if I was obedient and if I worked hard enough, I would be rewarded. And so there's a specific memory that pops out from my childhood, okay? This is probably like, honestly, bro, like pre-K. And I'll never forget it. But it was during Halloween. And mind you, okay, I was this beautiful butterfly, all right? Not that it's relevant to the story, but I'm just trying to paint a scene here, okay? Trying to paint the scene. And the woman who was, I guess, the teacher, I don't know, this felt more like a daycare, like after pre-K or some shit, but whatever. Anyways, I specifically remember her singling out these two kids from our classroom that day because the way that it worked is that we all went around to the different classrooms to like trick or treat, basically. But there were multiple grade levels in this school, right? So she singled out these two kids from our class and she looked at the rest of us and said, "This is what happens when you behave and when you do the right thing. You see Mandy and Josh? They get to be with the big kids today because they know how to be good kids." Bruh. Like, really, bro? I don't know. I just remember that being, like, really annoying to me. Like, in that moment, I was like, bro, I'm a good kid. Like, why are you singling out these two kids? Like, are you calling the rest of us fucking bad? You know what I mean? Like, I just remember being really bothered by that. And the other thing is, too, I just feel like this is a very common belief that was like heavily instilled into my generation's brain. You know, it's that idea of like, be good and you will be rewarded. Work hard and you will be rewarded. So it's just like from a young age, I kind of saw what being good and being obedient got you. And so if being good meant you got all of these rewards and extra things, and being bad meant you got all these consequences, then why the hell would I want to be bad? Do you see what I'm saying? And now as a kid, I wish I would have been taught that it's okay to challenge authority when you feel like something is wrong or uncomfortable. But I was never taught that. And so I just grew up believing that no adult could do anything wrong or bad and that they could do no wrong, right? And that whatever they say just goes. And so this really just carried over throughout my K-12 experience. And eventually this conditioning turned into a belief that sounds like this. I believe that I always have to do what I'm told and work hard if I want to be successful and rewarded. If I do not do these things, there will be consequences. And this fuck-ass belief has manifested its way into, honestly, probably every facet of my life. I'm not even joking. But especially like in my creative and work life. And so it's like I have manifested this unspoken pressure that says I have to be great and I can't slip up. Otherwise, I'm doing something wrong, right? Like I have to work hard. I can't take breaks or make a mistake because otherwise there's going to be consequences. And now some of this probably comes from my athlete conditioning too. And, you know, of course, my experience in the educational institution, but it really has put a wrench in my work and creative life, okay? Creativity to me should be the opposite of work, though, in my general understanding of creativity. Because when I think of creativity and art, I think of something pure and something from the soul, if that makes sense. But what's challenging about, you know, not only being in a creative field in my day job, but also as a content creator in my everyday life, is that I feel like creativity in the world today is seen as an output of productivity. And it's like the more I create and the more I put out means the more traction that I'm going to get from all of this, the more I'm going to get out of it. Does that make sense? And it's like more creativity means more productivity. And our world loves productivity. So it's like I feel this certain pressure to create more and more content in order to be rewarded. And if I don't, I won't see those results. And that's the consequence, right? Like I won't see the fruits of my labor if I'm not just constantly putting in labor. Like, and also, if you're not continuously putting out work, then it's just going to be disregarded. And my issue is that creativity doesn't work that way. Creativity was never meant to be manufactured. Okay? It's not meant to be used as a machine that can, on the spot, produce all these ideas and wonderful works of art. Like, no. And fuck AI for that, dude. Like, seriously, bro. It's a disrespect to creativity. Genuine creative people understand that our art is a gift from the universe, from the higher power. You know, it's meant to be shared with the world, but not extracted. And my problem right now is that I put so much pressure on myself to create all this content and make sure that it gets out instantly that I sometimes feel like I am manufacturing my own creativity. And it's not always coming from a soulful place because I feel like I just need to put it out there. And it's like I place productivity over my creative intuition because I'm fearful that my work will never be acknowledged if I don't. Like nobody's ever going to take the bait if I don't continue to just put my shit out there. Does that make sense? And I don't know. I have this fear that also that I'll like run out of time or that it'll never happen for me if I don't continue to just, you know, release a podcast every single week or post on social media every single day. Like, why do I feel so much pressure to do that? And it's like, there's no pressure. You know what I'm saying? There's no timeline, but I just have this rooted belief that makes me feel this way. And what ends up happening is that it burns me out. And especially, let's just take a look at this podcast, okay? It's just me doing this podcast. I am a one-woman show here, okay? I record, edit, and produce all my shit, bro. My skeleton logos, hand drew them shits, okay? The intro, outro music, made that on GarageBand at like 2 a.m. on a random fucking Tuesday night, okay? Like, this is all my shit. But it's exhausting sometimes to keep up with it because it's only me doing it all. And that is why pressure has become the enemy of my own creativity because I don't allow myself enough time to receive, you know, the messages that I'm meant to in order to just bring it into reality. I rush my creativity because I'm scared that it won't be relevant if I don't. And so, in my mind, a half-baked idea or creation is better than nothing at all, but I'm slowly starting to realize that it's not. And it's also not fucking sustainable. So I'm really going to have to try to retrain my brain and my nervous system to like let go of this childhood belief, and I want it to sound something more like this. My worth is not based on how much I do and how fast I do it. I am allowed to take breaks and do things in my own time. There are no consequences for listening to what I need and what matters to me. I don't want to exhaust my creativity. I want to be in harmony with it. Okay? Again, creativity is a soulful exchange. And if I abuse that exchange, I'm not standing in my true power. You know, I want to create from a place of wholeness because that kind of creativity is the kind that the universe, God, the higher power wanted me to bring into this reality. So in this next season of my podcast, I really want to prioritize my rest and give myself time to listen to what it is that I'm really meant to create in this world. You know, rather than just assuming or just putting together a fucking episode the week of because I just feel like I need to get something out there, you know? So anyway, I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right. Last takeaway from this year is speaking your truth is healing. What's crazy about this podcast is that I have given myself almost like an audible diary that I can come back to, which is a little fucked up probably in hindsight. But, you know, through this experience, I have been able to give myself my own safe space and talk about hard things. Because growing up, I never really had a safe space to talk about these hard feelings. In my family, we never really talked about the hard things. We never got comfortable with the uncomfortable. And listen, my family, we have a lot of love for one another. I think you reach a moment with your sibling where you can talk about your experiences, and there tend to be a lot of similarities, right? So that's one of the things that my brother have talked about, is that we were always so afraid to ask our parents about some of these uncomfortable things or come to them with these hard feelings. Like, for example, I never asked my mom about sex or about, my menstrual cycle. And my brother shared the same things. He's like, I never asked dad about sex growing up and what it meant to be growing into a man, So, like, we just didn't feel comfortable enough to ask these questions or to talk about some of these harder feelings because we just didn't really feel like they opened up a space that made us feel comfortable enough to come and do those things. And I don't think as a child, and again, my parents did the best that they could with the tools that they had. I'm not blaming them. I'm just talking about my experience. But like, I just think that as a kid, it's not our responsibility to feel like we have to bring up those hard emotions and those hard things. That should be, in my opinion, okay, that should be the role of a parent, right? The role of a parent should be to bring the uncomfortable forward to the child because it's not their responsibility to come to the parents with what the uncomfortableness, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Hopefully that makes sense. And I just feel like as a family, we didn't fight enough. And I mean that in like the best way possible. Like, we just didn't have healthy arguments. We didn't talk through conflicts or talk through, difficult conversations. Like, the fights were either met with yelling and a go to your room or a you're not listening, I'm taking something away, right? And so, unfortunately, growing up in this kind of environment, it has manifested into my brother and I's adult life because now we both find it extremely hard to be vulnerable with other people, especially about the hard things. We're terrified that there isn't a space to do that. So a lot of times we just don't do it. Or if we do, it's really awkward and it doesn't always come across the way that we want it to, right? And so the rooted belief that I have developed now sounds something like this. We don't talk about the hard things. Conflict is bad. Being vulnerable is not an option. Your harsh feelings will not be met with grace. You will lose something if you express how you truly feel. And so something that I've realized too, especially about my parents, is that the way that they were raised is so different than how they raised my brother and I. And obviously, I think as parents, you always want to do better than your parents. And I know that the L word was only tossed around a handful of times in both of my mother and father's households growing up. And so I recognize that some of this is generational. Like, it wasn't something that they had tried to do. And unfortunately, this belief has made it extremely hard for me to be vulnerable with other people. And it's just kind of interesting, right? Because I can sit here and be as vulnerable as I want, but it's because it's just me, myself, and the mic, right? Like, nobody else is sitting around me right now as I'm having this conversation. So this is, way easier for me because there's not that pressure of another person. But when you add another person in the mix, being vulnerable is like, what? I don't know how to do that, right? And even with like some of my closest friends, I can't even get through a difficult conversation with them without my voice shaking. Like, seriously, guys, this is bad. So, an example, all right? Recently, I had to have a pretty difficult conversation with one of my best friends. I mean, she has been a person in my life who I can count on. Like, she's just a solid friend. She listens to me, she genuinely cares, and she's just a really great example of a really good friendship in your late 20s. But I had to have a difficult conversation with her regarding our living arrangements because at the time, we were both living together and some things came up that were making me uncomfortable, and I knew that I needed to address it, right? Like, it was evident enough that it was affecting my living situation and I needed to talk to her about it. But the whole time leading up to this conversation, I was like fucking petrified and I didn't know how to approach it, and I just didn't want it to turn into a fight, and I didn't want her to be mad at me, and I didn't know how it was going to affect our living situation after that. Like, were we still going to be friends? Like, I was so anxious and my brain was going in like a million different directions before I even had this conversation. Now, luckily, my friend is an amazing human being and she was very understanding and listened intently, and we obviously ended up working it out. But I was so terrified to even start that conversation with her. And what I think I find even more fucking annoying is that this shows up in my romantic connections like tenfold, bro. Oh my God, it's terrible. I find it extremely difficult to advocate for myself or talk about how I'm feeling in romantic relationships because I'm scared if I do, they're just going to run away, or, they'll tell me to fuck off. I mean, not really, but I am terrified to have those conversations because I'm scared that it's just going to mess everything up, right? And I never know how vulnerable is too vulnerable. Like, I don't want to scare them away if I'm being too vulnerable, but I also don't want to continue to sacrifice my feelings out of fear that they won't stick around. Like, I don't know. It just sucks. And I don't know how to deal with conflict very well. Like, I'm not a person who likes conflict. I don't like the energy. It feels weird. I don't like feeling uncomfortable. Like, fuck, sorry. I don't want to fight with you. Like, what? And my biggest issue right now that I'm finding is that I just match energy. So anytime somebody gets loud with me, I just get loud back. And it's like worse, bro. Like, I will just literally go over the edge. Like, it's so bad. And I think the reason why I'm struggling with this right now is because the child in me never did talk back, right? Like, I was that obedient child. I didn't talk back. I just sat in my seat and did what I was told. So now I just am so reactive. Like, I get really reactive the moment somebody, gets a little bit disrespectful with me. And I don't know, it's terrible. And so I'm trying to get better at recognizing that in the moment and not be so quick to match energy, but conflict is something that's uncomfortable. But I'm appreciative because this podcast has really allowed me to speak my truth and release it in a healthy way. And I think that has in turn really helped me in being able to be vulnerable with other people and have hard conversations with other people and not be so quick to match their energy or be scared to talk about the things that I need because I've been able to, do it. I know that I can do it, right? And part of this podcast has been working through my own shit in real time. And then to put it out there and to put it out into the world has been so freeing. And some might call it trauma dumping, but, I call it freeing, so whatever. And what I've noticed is that through this practice of speaking my truth, I have really been able to slow down and just see things a lot more clearly. And again, like, even with these beliefs that I've been unpacking today, I don't think I ever would have been able to pinpoint where some of my pain or conditioning came from. if I didn't really start actively thinking about it and then talking it through with myself. And in doing so, I have really built a better relationship with myself. I have a lot more compassion for my parents and for people around me. I'm learning how to self-regulate in a really healthy way, bro. And I'm not kidding when I say everybody should just start a fucking podcast with themselves. At the very least, just to get to know yourself better. Because goddamn, all right? I've learned more about myself in this past year than I have in the last 3. And let me just say, this has given me so much more confidence. And I feel like I'm building a foundation within myself that's going to eventually be unbreakable, is what I hope. You know, when shit is going terribly in my life outside of this, I will always remind myself that this podcast is here. Like, I will always have this, bro. I don't need to be upset about shit not working out with some random guy because guess what? I'm building something that's just for me. And that's pretty fucking cool. So, you know? So hopefully now my belief about vulnerability can actually sound something like this. Vulnerability is a superpower. You are safe to express how you feel without judgment because your feelings are valid. Don't hold back out of fear of losing something or someone. You are already whole, and you have everything you need. Period, bitch, mic drop, end of episode. Joking, but like seriously, dude. Speaking your truth and sharing who you are is not a burden. You know, your experiences as a child might try to teach you that your feelings are too much, but they're not. People just got used to burying emotions because it was easier to do that than it was to actually talk about them. So you're not alone. And I try to remind myself that my truth will hopefully one day inspire somebody to speak theirs. And that's when real connection happens. Whew. Wow. That was a fucking lot. Oh my God. All right, guys. We have gotten into the fun part of the episode. All right. Now, instead of doing my Real Authentic Woman of the Week this week, I decided that I wanted to have a little fun with this section. So we are going to get into some of my top blooper moments of the year. I don't have a lot because honestly, you guys, it was like so hard trying to sift trying to sift through all of my blooper moments and fuck ups over the past year. I mean, Jesus Christ, I released 42 episodes, which is crazy. But anyways, how this is going to work is we're going to go from last to first on what I believe are the top blooper moments, okay? Because obviously we need to build some anticipation for the very first one, right? So that's how this is going to work. And obviously I'll give you some context of what these mess up moments were. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this part of the episode. It was a lot of fun doing it. So let's get into it. Okay, you guys. So I got to be honest. I only have about 7 funny sound bites that I could find because this was a bitch to go back and try to find all this shit. So that's all you're getting. So little context on this soundbite. This happens a lot. Okay, I get a lot of outside noises when I'm recording and I always have to stop and then it pisses me off. So I end up going into a tizzy while I'm, having a conversation on the mic. And so this is an example of when I get really pissed off when I'm in the middle of recording an episode and something is going on outside. We don't know. There's a fucking asshole who is riding around in the fucking neighborhood with a fucking motor. What? Am I okay? Like, sometimes I feel like I say shit and I'm like, what is coming out of my mouth? Okay. Coming in at number 6, we have a soundbite that also happens very frequently. I am somebody who gets distracted very easily, and I tend to just put words together that you wouldn't normally put together, if that makes sense. So this is an example of that. Enjoy. And let me tell you something. Oh, Jesus. Okay, hold on. The ass. Coming in at number 5, we have my continuous efforts to self-diagnose myself. I'm again, very distracted person. So a lot of times I get going on a roll and I go too fast and then I literally don't even remember what I'm talking about. So this is one of those examples. Probably address that later in an episode anyway. Okay, I need to restart this whole fucking... I'm having ADD. I don't know what the fuck's going on with me, but I'm restarting this whole fucking thing. Coming in at number 4, and you guys, these sound bites progressively just get more aggressive. Let me just be very clear. So a lot of times when I'm recording my episodes, I have a computer that sits in front of me, right? So I'm looking at my notes, and when I'm looking at my notes, I have a bunch of pop-ups that come up onto my computer screen, and I literally get so mad because it's right in the middle of my recording and it's in front of my face and I can't see any of my fucking notes. So coming in at number 4, this is a very pissed off soundbite about the pop-ups that come up onto my screen. Oh my God, Adobe, get the fuck out of my face, boy. Hello? Fucking making so much noise for no reason. Oh my God, bro. Can't ever get through anything without distractions. Fuck. Anyway. Okay, and now we are getting into the top 3 spots, okay? And this soundbite is something that also happens very frequently. For whatever reason, I tend to burp. I don't know why. I don't know why it happens, but when I get super into something, I just literally can't help myself, and I just literally start burping. It's acid reflux. I don't know. I have no idea. So this is top 3 in my opinion. Top 3 funniest soundbite. Here we go. Oh my God, why do I always burp? I'm just annoyed. All right. Why do I burp? What in the fuck? I'm gonna fucking hate editing this. Oh my God, okay. Jesus, okay. It's every time I start talking, I just burp. What the fuck is that? Anyway. Okay, so coming in at number 2, at the number 2 spot, again, this is another instant with the pop-ups that come onto my screen. But this pop-up specifically shows up at all the wrong times, and I get pissed every single time because it's helpful. This pop-up that I have on my computer is helpful when I need it to be helpful, but more often than not, it's not helpful, okay? Because when I'm writing my scripts out for my podcast, I'm not, intentionally caring about how things are being spelled, but I have Grammarly turned on my computer. So it's constantly popping up bitch, you spelled this wrong. Bitch, you spelled that wrong. And I literally get pissed because I'm I don't care that it's spelled wrong because you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it that way. So anyways, this is top 2, one of my biggest crash outs in my episodes so far. And it's funny. So here we go. This is the number 2 spot. Can we get out of here? Fucking, oh my God, dude. It's so annoying, bro. I just want to fucking, get away from me. Get away. Grammarly, I want to fucking just punch you in the face. No, get away from me. It's not supposed to be, Okay. I literally am going to hate editing this. I don't even care. Okay. Okay, so this is number 1. Okay, it was tricky for me to choose which one because I thought all of these were obviously pretty funny, but I think I chose this one as number 1 because this always happens to me at the end of an episode. I'm almost just so drained and done with recording that it's so hard for me to speak that I'm just oh my God, I'm done. I literally can't even speak anymore. I have no idea what I'm talking about. So this is probably one of the funniest sound bites, I think, personally, because of just my journey and how I know I get at the end of an episode. So here it is. Here's the last one. I should have given you more kisses and hugs the times I could. Why the fuck can I say shit? Oh, thank God, because I'm about to fucking freak out. Okay. All right. Bye. Okay. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed my top 7 funniest moments. I'm probably going to try to do that again. At the end of each season, I'm going to hopefully just, rack them up as we go so I don't have to go back and look for all of these because that was a pain in my ass. It was a pain in my ass. So hopefully you enjoyed this little break and enjoyed kind of picking out the funny moments with me as this first season comes to a close. I mean, it's been a year, babe. It's crazy. So we're just going to keep chugging along. But just to close out this episode, just do a little recap on everything. This year has taught me to stop being so afraid, despite the constant fear. You got to just be scared doing it sometimes because the world is going to fucking spin no matter what. So you might as well just fucking do it anyway. People are going to have their own opinions about me, but that shouldn't deter me from being my true self. Okay? Why the fuck would I stay comfortable for someone else's comfort? We're not doing that shit anymore. We're not doing it. Secondly, I don't want to put so much pressure onto my creativity anymore because number one, it's not sustainable and it's not natural. I don't want to overwork myself and burn myself out just because I'm scared that shit will never happen for me. Not doing it. Lastly, I'm going to keep speaking my truth because speaking my truth is healing, but it's also freeing. So I want to thank everyone who has supported me over this past year in my creativity and, has participated in my podcast. If I have interviewed you, I really appreciate you giving me your time and allowing me to bring your story into this space. That's really awesome. And just to everyone who believes in me, to do this work and the people who are actively listening, I'm so appreciative. And I only hope that this community continues to grow and we continue to unpack some deep ass shit. Okay. Because, next year is going to look a little different. I'm making some changes based on the things that I've learned. And I did kind of just want to prepare you all for what that's going to look like. Okay. I will no longer be doing an episode a week unless I am in a podcast season. Now, ideally, I'd like a season to last for 3 months and I'd release an episode every week within those 3 months. And then I would take about a 2-month rest and reset period to start coming up with some new ideas and, get working on some episodes. And so we're going to try this out this year. I don't know. We're just going to see what happens. So don't expect to see anything from me super soon. Okay. I'm thinking I'm going to release, season 2, like October-ish. Okay. Cause season 1 has been a year long and that was crazy. I know that's a little bit of a ways away, but babe, I got to make you miss me a little bit, right? Got to push the gap a little bit. So anyway, I'm literally so spent after this episode, you guys. This shit was like, what? Anyway, I hope that you guys took something from this. Again, I really appreciate everyone who's been supportive of me. We have officially had a whole year of the Real Authentic Woman podcast. It's a big deal, you guys. Big deal. So anyway, I will see you guys next season. Thanks. See you later.